Good morning. Happy Sabbath, everyone. Good to be here this morning. For those who don't know who I am, that is indeed my name on the screen. And in this conference, thanks. Yep. Cheers. In the Tasmanian Seventh-day Adventist Conference, or the States, I'm responsible for the ministries in youth, children's ministries, and also the family. And I think it's appropriate because if one thing, last year was the first time I got involved in youth ministries as a leader, and it has everything to do with the families that young people come from. So I think everything's intertwined in any case. You know, it's really interesting. I've been sponsored, praise the Lord. I started a master's program this year, and it's involved with youth and family ministries. So I've got to look at some literature and study some of these things, and it's really interesting because I myself have youth in my family. I have Uriah, who's not here. He's got responsibilities back at Glenorchy. He's 16, my daughter's 13, and my youngest is 10, turning 11. And I really do find myself in the shoes of when I was in my teens. I still remember when I was 8 years old, and my dad told me to come with him to read this brochure. And his work had started something new. They had stopped paying them with these yellow envelopes and started telling them that they need to get money from this hole in the wall. And my dad wanted me to come show him, read the brochure, and give him instructions on how to get money from this machine using this card. And I remember thinking, man, why can't Dad do it himself? And at the same time thinking, wow, money comes from the wall? Maybe I could work something out here. But that was amazing technology back then. I'm finding myself in there now. I'm like, you're right, can you come show me how to do this? You're right, can you make the videos for Instagram, please? Because I don't know how to. He's like, oh, Dad, And I find myself talking a lot about, hey, don't spend too much time on that stuff, make sure to disengage and whatever. And I think I'm losing touch sometimes. I'm afraid of that. But I want to share some encouraging statistics. This is something that's really fascinating from some of the research that has been done recently. They found with the Gen Z, which is about 16 to 25, I think, around that area right now, when they're on social media, they are influenced a lot by people that they look up to, which we call influencers right now. They make videos, they have the commentaries on whatever's going on. And so they have people that they follow. And before they even watch the video, I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen Uriah scroll through Instagram Reels or TikTok, I don't know what it is, and he likes them before he's even watched them. And I think, wait a minute, you don't even know what it's about. Like, how can you? And he's like, oh no, I like this basketball player. So, but what if the basketball player just shot 2 kids? Like, is you still going to like that? He's like, and we're trying to, well, how does it work? And so before they even watch the video, they're looking at the comments to see what their peers are saying about this. And this is how they're determining their angle on things. But the most encouraging thing that I keep reading is regardless of how influenced they are by their influence or whatnot, the number one influence is, guess what? It's still their parents. Now, the research doesn't need to tell us this. The Bible's been telling us this from the beginning of time. So parents are still the number one influence. So if you're a parent or you have children that are parents, let them know how strong the influence is on their children. The parents are still the number one influence. So the bad news is, you have to be on your best behavior for your children. But that's some fascinating stuff. I think, wow, looking at the comments before they even watch a video, for my brain, and perhaps I'm old now, I think I've got to watch the content before I can determine any decision. That's the way I think. And perhaps I got a few nods. Yeah, you guys look at the same age as me. So yeah, we're in the same boat. I want to ask you a question. Have you heard of the Pashtun people? Any Pashtun? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell you a Pashtun fable, a popular Pashtun fable. There was a man. He was an unfortunate man, and his brother was a fortunate man. And he said to him, brother, how did you find good fortune? Man said, you have to go to the middle of the forest. My good fortune has a brother in the middle of the forest. If you capture good fortune there, you'll be fine. You'll have good fortune too. So the unfortunate man, he set on his way. Went to the forest, and on his way, just as he entered the forest, there was a sick lion just rolling around on the ground. A mixture of roaring and moaning. Man says, what's wrong with you? Lion says, oh, I'm sick to the stomach. He says, oh, that's a shame. He says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go capture good fortune. Is there anything you want me to say to him? He says, yeah, ask him why I'm so sick. He says, yep, no worries, I'll do that. Carries on his way, and he meets up with his horse. And the horse is on the ground, and he's skinny. His legs don't look right. Man asks him, what's wrong with you, horse? Horse says, my muscles, they've all become weak. I need a master to ride me, and I can become strong again. And he says, I don't know why I'm so weak. So I just gave you the answer of good fortune. And he says, do you want me to ask? I'm going to go find good fortune. Do you want me to ask something for you? He says, yeah. Ask him why I'm so weak. He says, okay. On the way there, nearly at good fortune, nearly to the middle of the forest, and he sees this tree, and the tree has no leaves. The man says, wow, what's wrong with you, tree? He says, I'm not sure. And he goes, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go see good fortune. He goes, yeah. Can you ask him why I've got no leaves? He goes, yep. Gets to the middle of the forest, and there he finds good fortune. He says, finally found you. Good fortune doesn't put up a fight. Grabs him, you'll come with me now. I've got good fortune in my life. Good fortune said, it's good that you've got good fortune now, but you don't seem very intelligent. You need a bit of intelligence. The man said, oh, okay. And he asked good fortune. He says, hey, this tree wants to know why it's got no leaves. Good fortune says, the reason you don't have any leaves is because at the roots, there's treasures of 7 kings that are buried there. As soon as you remove the treasure, your leaves will grow. And the tree says, man, can you dig up the treasures of 7 kings? The man says, no, I've got good fortune now. Good luck with it. Carries on. Meets up with the horse. Horse asks the question, why am I weak? Good fortune says, you need a master to ride you, then your muscles will come back and you'll be strong again. The horse says, hey, God, why don't you be my master? Then I can get strong. And the man says, I've got good fortune now. I don't need to ride any horse. So he moves on. Good luck to the horse, he says. Moves off to the lion. Comes to the lion. Man tells good fortune, the lion wants to know why he's so sick. And good fortune says, lion, I'll tell you what, we've come on a bit of a journey. And the man says, stop right there. And so the man tells a story of his journey, where he met the tree and he met the horse. He comes to the lion. Good fortune says, okay, because the reason why you're sick is because you need to eat. And the only thing you can eat is a stupid fool, and you'll become better. So the lion ate the man. Fortune without intelligence. Right? What an interesting fable from the Pushtun-Wali people. We're gonna open this up. This is what we're talking about today. Romans 12. So they lived happily ever after. That's the end of the story. Romans 12, from 9 to the end, to 21, there seemed to be a list of non-negotiables in Romans 12, of what a Christian looks like, where Paul is telling us, this is what Christians do. And in that list comes this thing here, which is really interesting. I'm going to, let's say a prayer before we open up. Father in heaven, right now as we open the Bible, I pray, Lord, although you've asked us to exercise faith, we exercise intelligence too. And Lord, I pray that we can put to practice what you challenge us to do in light of the cross and your Son, Jesus Christ. We pray in his most powerful name. Amen. Okay, so let's read that. I'll read the 9 to... Actually, I'll just read up to where it says practice hospitality, just to get some idea. Let love, I'm reading from a New King James Version. It says, let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil, cling to what is good, be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love and honor, giving preference to one another, not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing steadfastly in prayer, distributing to the needs of the saints. And the last one, my Bible says, given to hospitality. The NIV, ESV, and whatnot, they say practice hospitality. Now at Rosny, I think this is one of the gifts in Rosny Church. Rosny Church is very good at hospitality, making people feel welcome, and the food is good. So anyone that hasn't eaten here, I can tell you, Pedro, food here is good. And so the hospitality is good practice here. But what I want you to, I'm hoping by the end of this is that you're aware of what hospitality actually does to us as Christian individuals. What does it do to our worldview and the way that we live our lives? That's what I'm going to look into this morning. You know, when I was a kid, about my kids' ages, my parents used to love having people around. I think people came around a lot. But when people turned up, Mum and Dad, we got to the age of about 8, 9, 10 where we had to start serving the people. And one of the things that we do is we got to butter these. We always have these tin cabin breads, biscuits in the cupboard. There's always jam, strawberry jam available. And there's always some type of, we have salmon koko available, right? And so when people turned up, we went straight to our stations. Mum would just say, boys, okay, all right. Then we get our orders, and Dad would get ready to do his things. And the people or the person would pull up, and one of the chores that we had to do was get one of those little coffee tables. You know those little coffee tables that you could stack? And we'll bring the table out, we put it in front of Dad, put it in front of the guests. Food gets ready, we bring the food out. And this is something that Samoans always laugh about, because you go to put the food in front of the guest first, and the guest will say, no, give it to your dad first. It's like, oh, and your dad gives you a look. Oh, and then it's like a backwards and forwards, and then your mum gets involved. Hey, hurry up. Oh, God. Just put it where it is and just face the music later, whatever you did, whether it's right or wrong. And then when they leave, you got to pack up, and then you got to wash the dishes. So for me as a kid, every time someone pulled up our driveway to come and have tea and talk to Mum and Dad, it's like, ugh. I'm going to have to wash the dishes and serve them, get in trouble because I don't know which one to serve first. So it's quite inconvenient having people coming over. And that happened way into our teen lives. In fact, if I'm at Mum and Dad's right now, that's still my job. You know, if I turn up, I like to sit back and relax, but no. People come over in the kitchen. That was our practice, that was our teaching of hospitality. I had no idea how much that would impact me in my older life as an adult. I'm hoping we could see the benefits of that and how awesome that is. This is a movie that was released around 2014, 2015, based on a true story that happened in Afghanistan in 2005. As you know, there was a war there. And one of the soldiers, Marcus Luttrell, him and 3 other Navy SEALs were sent on a mission. They had to hunt down one particular warlord. And on their mission, they got trapped, got caught. I think all 3 of Marcus Luttrell's team died. And he tried to make a runner. And he was taken in by a tribe called the Pushtunwali tribe. The Pushtunwali tribe are found in Afghanistan. And they're the ones that took in Marcus Luttrell to look after him. In this movie, what happens is the Taliban come looking for the Americans. And they come to this particular village, and they say, is the American here? And they're hiding, and they said, no, he's not here. And they tell them, you have to get off our thing. Actually, they find the American, but they say, you have to leave our village. So the Taliban leave by force. They had guns, this village had guns, but the Taliban came back with reinforcements. And protecting this Navy SEAL, many of the villagers died, trying to protect this American soldier. The Pushtunwali lived by this code, showing profound respect to all visitors and doing so without any hope of remuneration. Forgiveness refers to the protection given to a person against his enemies. Justice, seek to bring a wrongdoer to account for their unjust actions. These are the codes they live by, so it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what sex you are. When you enter their village and they're under your protection, they'll protect you with their lives. That is the Pushtunwali code. Very different to the Sharia code that the Taliban lived by, so there was a conflict there. And so this is the hospitality of the Pushtunwali people that live in Afghanistan. This is the code that we just looked at this morning. This is from the NIV, and I've underlined what we just read before it says, practice hospitality. As much as we roll our eyes and feel the pain of serving others, there's something amazing about practicing hospitality, serving others. We're going to look at two stories. You know, I'm doing Bible studies with Jess, and she mentioned something to me when we did Bible study. She said, can we not do this this Bible study where we jump around in different texts and we study a certain subject? And I said, okay, why is that? And she explained to me. And I said, so what do you want to do? She goes, if we could just go through stories and then you teach me the doctrines through the stories. I thought, okay, all right, we'll do that. So what we're doing is we're looking at 7 roles of Christ throughout the Bible, and we take one story from the New Testament, or Old Testament, and then one from the New Testament, looking at these particular doctrines that our church believes. And it's been an interesting journey. So from this experiment, I've been able to do it with other young people. So thanks, Jessica, for that. And I'm doing that today. I'm doing the same thing today. Our first story is in Luke 19. Luke 19. And we're just reading 9 verses. Short one. Luke 19, sorry, 10 verses. I'll begin. Then Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. There's the first verse. The author found it important to mention where he's traveling. And the city's name is Jericho. Now, I don't believe this Jericho is the exact same geographic location as another Jericho. But when we think about a story of the Old Testament, where does your mind go to when we think about the city of Jericho? Right, the walls come crumbling down, right? So let's lock that in. Let's keep that in because the author mentioned that particular city where this person lives that we're going to go to. Now, behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. And he had a great job. He was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. And he sought to see who Jesus was, but could not because of the crowd, for he was of short stature. Let's pause there really quickly. Now, I want you to think for a minute. Why do you think Zacchaeus wants to see Jesus right now? What is his intention, or what's his motives of seeing Jesus? You don't have to say it out loud. Just think to yourself what his motives and intentions were.
Find out things you heard about him are real.
That's okay if you answer out. Say again, please. I didn't quite hear you.
Find out if the things he's heard about him are real.
Okay, so you're insinuating that he's heard some things about Jesus. Now, what are some of the things that the city of Jericho might have heard about Jesus? Now, you can say it out loud now. What are some of the things you think he's heard about Jesus? He can heal. He can command devils, yeah. I'm hoping, because of the way I am now, I'm hoping that I would have really loved his parables, even though I didn't quite understand them. I'd be like, far out, what do those parables mean? Maybe I can ask him when he gets here. He's got all these questions about this Jesus that can heal, forgive, do all these marvelous things, but let's not forget, what did the author say he was? He's a tax collector. I don't know if you know this. Tax collectors were everyone's best friend in the Jewish world. Tax collectors could do this in Jericho. They could do this in their city, right? Rome would send out a letter and say, tax is 8%. Tax collector read that letter, 8%. People of Jericho, tax is 14%. Hey, we know it's 8%. Oh, you want me, soldiers? Oh, no, it's okay. 14%, no worries. All right, taking the money, pocket the 6, give the 8 to the Jews, and people know why this guy's rich. So he's a tax collector. He's been stealing money, but he wants to see Jesus. What does he want to do with Jesus? We find out that he's a short king. He's a short man. And he's got lots of money. And he goes to see Jesus, but it doesn't say that they intentionally blocked him out, but I do think that may be the case. Here's push him out. Don't let him get involved in this. He doesn't belong here. Too short to see where Jesus is at. So he ran ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him. So he's short, got a lot of money, and he's got brains. Oh, and he's nimble. He can climb a tree. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. Wow. There's Zacchaeus, who's ready to hear what Jesus has to say, to see if Jesus is going to do the healing that he heard about and all these things. And then as he walks past, he looks up and then he calls him out by his name. Put yourself in Zacchaeus' small shoes. How would that make you feel? Whoa, just call me out by my name. Zacchaeus, how do you? Just imagine this. Imagine Zacchaeus, for some reason, that he'd been living this life of making heaps of money, successful, got all the things that he wants, but then he hears the story of Jesus and what Jesus is doing, finds out that Jesus doesn't have that much money, right? He's got these followers, and he hears about the stories he's telling, the preaching he's doing, and then he has a conscience, realizes, what I'm doing isn't right. Whatever Jesus is representing, I want something to do with that. He seems to represent something. I want part of what he's doing. And then he gets the boldness to start praying. Oh man, I'm not doing right. I need to get my life right. And then the great evangelists of their time start putting on the social media and the posters around Jericho, Jesus is coming to town. And he's thinking, things can really turn around for me here. Things can really change in my life. And when Jesus arrives, he can't even see him. Oh, we're going to go there soon. He can't even get to see Jesus. Wow, I mean, blocked off by seeing what Jesus says. But I'm going to climb a tree and still see what he does. And then Jesus calls his name and says, I'm coming to your house. Everything that he prayed about, I wonder whether Zacchaeus even realized that God could hear his thoughts and his prayers, know his guilt, his confessions, his admissions. I'm hoping I'm talking to someone this morning. God hears you. God knows what you're going through and knows what you want to get off your chest. Let's start again. So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. But when they saw it, they all complained, saying, he has gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. People weren't happy. Why would Jesus choose to go to the tax collector's house, that thief, not knowing what Zacchaeus' journey has been? And then Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, look, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor, and if I've taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold. Does this sound like a man that wants to turn his life around? Certainly does. Finally, he gets to dump these things that's been on his shoulders for so long and talk to Jesus himself. Jesus, this is what I wish to do. I've been carrying this guilt for so long. Auntie Mary down the road doesn't realize that I've stolen this much, but I'm willing to give back 4 times the amount that I've taken from her. Jesus doesn't even respond with a, wow, aren't you a good little boy? Aren't you he doesn't even, listen to this. He says, and Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house because he also is a son of Abraham. Whoa. That must have been a bit of a shock, right? Because he just admitted and confessed what he's intending to do. I've done wrong, Lord, but I want to do right, and this is what I want to do. And Jesus' response to that, he doesn't say, you don't mean it. Jesus mustered salvation. Not just Zacchaeus. It doesn't say just Zacchaeus. It says, what does the Bible say? Salvation has come to this household. What an amazing thing that hospitality can do in the face of somebody that wants to do right. Somebody that is willing to say, Jesus, you are welcome in this home. Hey, Jesus, I've got this confession, this admission, straight from my heart. I want to tell you, I'm not going to hold anything back. This is what I've been doing, and this is what I intend to do. And the response to that, Zacchaeus, you and your household, you're saved. Don't you hate those moments? Like, Jesus, you make it too easy. Jesus, you're too gracious, too merciful. Make it make sense. And then there's a motto that comes with this. The motto of Jesus Christ follows through in this story of Zacchaeus, and I believe it's a motto that we continue to follow. It says, for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. I think that's an awesome, awesome motto. It's a tough one as well, isn't it? It's a tough one as well. I haven't got time to go through this, but I know that young people have said to me, it makes it sound like that we are better than others. It's true. It kind of sounds a bit like when you've heard, for the Seventh-day Wells Bible Study, Seventh-day Adventists, we've heard, we are the remnant people. We can get a bit chuffed about that. Yes, we are. You know the Bible like no one else. Seek and save the lost. That means there are some that are found and some that are lost. Does that mean that the ones that are found are better than the ones that are lost? I want to tell you take this as you will, I tell you this, and I'm not mincing my words when I say this. To know that you are loved by a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, cousins, grandmother, a grandfather, others, friends, that is better than not believing you are loved. To know that you are loved by the creator of the universe, that is better. It doesn't make you better, but it's indeed better. It is indeed better. I'm telling you as an adult now, not appreciating what my parents had did to make me do stuff like hospitality and many other things that have been said. I laugh at this now. But I laugh at this now. I grew up in a household where I got the belt. The belt was my discipline. And one of the things my dad used to say that used to really confuse me, he would say, son, this hurts me more than it hurts you. What? I'm older now. I get it. I get what my parents had to put up with. I was not an easy child, but I want to assure you that being loved and having people to love, that is better than the alternative. It's true. It's just, that's the way it is. It doesn't make us better than anyone else, but it is indeed better to know that. We're going to connect the dots with Jericho now. Let's jump to Joshua 2. What is the story there in Joshua 2? Now I'm going to read from 9 onwards, so I'll just give a brief, just a brief synopsis of what the story is about. Joshua has been given his first assignment, and the first city that he has to take down is Jericho. Jericho has these thick walls. Joshua is not an army leader. This is not what he was brought up to do, what he does, but he sends 2 spies to do a reconnaissance mission. Go check out the place, tell us what it looks like. How are we going to do this? How are we going to attack this place? 2 spies go in, and they hide at a prostitute's house. This prostitute's name is Rahab. And we find in the story that this house is actually inside the walls. So it's not a big house. So as thick as the walls are, that's the space that she lives in, right? She lives in the wall. The men of the city find out. Somebody snitches on her and said, hey, we saw these strange-looking men going to Rahab's house. The soldiers are like, isn't that normal for Rahab? But they said, no. They look different. They look different. Something suspicious about these men. And so they went to check it out. When they saw Rahab, Rahab said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. She was hiding these men in her house. And then we start at verse 9. Verse 9, it says, I'll start at verse 8. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God on heaven above and on earth beneath. Now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have known your kindness, your kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, my mother, my brother, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Rahab has made a confession, an admission to these spies. In Rahab's thinking before Joshua and his people arrived, what do you think was going through her mind and her heart? Yeah, we're cactus. The walls are meant to be strong. Perhaps she laid down, perhaps on that rooftop where she's hiding the spies, there she had prayers. God of Israel, if you're willing to hear my prayer, is there any way that my life can be spared? You split the Red Sea. I've heard everything you do. Is it possible? Perhaps she wanted a change in her life. She wanted things to turn around, and she saw this. This is an opportunity. When the spies came to her home and she opened her home, she thought, wow, could this be it? Could this be the God of Israel communicating to me? And this all points, now you're probably saying, yeah, David, you take a bit of poetic justice. But the fact that she had the gall and the boldness to ask them, I've shown mercy to you, will you show mercy to me? That is amazing. She must have seen that as a supernatural moment, supernatural opportunity, and she took it. In return, the story goes that the token that the spies said, they said, you hang the scarlet cord outside your window, and when we go back and report to Joshua and the rest of the gang, when they see that scarlet window, when we come back to attack, that anyone that's in that house, they will be saved. And guess who was in that house? Everyone that was listed on the thing, we said, when you show mercy, will you do it for my father's house, my brother, my sister? And she told them all, hey, come to my house, come to this, make sure to stay here when all this goes down. Not only was Rahab saved and her family, she was given an extra privilege. In Matthew, there's only 4 women that are mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus. Rahab the prostitute is one of them. She opened up her door to these spies. Hospitality led to salvation. And this isn't just a challenge in our days. This is written by Ellen White in 6 Testimonies. These admonitions have been strangely neglected, even among those who profess to be Christians. True hospitality is little exercised. Among our own people, the opportunity of showing hospitality is not regarded as it should be, as a privilege and blessing. Washing your dishes is a privilege and blessing. And it is. There is altogether too little sociability, too little of a disposition to make room for 2 or 3 more at the family board, without embarrassment or parade. Some plead that it is too much trouble. It would not be if you would say, how tough is this, right? We have made no special preparation, but you're welcome to what we have. By the unexpected guest, our welcome is appreciated far more than is the most elaborate preparation. Now I found, and this is something my wife really enjoys as well, when we open our home to others, when we invite people that are not in our clique, people that are strangers, when we meet them and just say, hey, why don't you come over to are you available on Tuesday evening, whatever, and they come over. I notice in our culture, it is a bit different in our modern Western culture. It takes about 2 or 3 visits, and then they will say to me, David, why don't you come to my home? It's reciprocated. It's like, I'm not even trying to make them feel guilty. I'm not even using a Rahab. Hey, since I showed kindness to you, will you show kindness to me? I don't do that. It's just like hey. You know, my oldest, Uriah, is doing this strange thing with his friends. They think he's a bit weird. He's gone to a public school for the first time, Elizabeth College. And some of his friends think he's a bit weird that there's a Sabbathing and there's food that he doesn't eat. There's certain practices. And when they ask Uriah about it, he says, oh, you know what, just come to church. They can answer the questions for you, you know. And so he's got one of his friends, and his friend's been coming often. In fact, he's going to come to Pathfinders this afternoon. He asked me last night, he goes, Dave, can I join Pathfinders? I said, you're going to have to talk to the leader. So when Nigel gets back, that's one of his assignments. But, you know, when we talk about 3, he comes and stays. Sometimes he'll stay the weekend. Talk about 3 visits, and then he asked Uriah, why don't you come to my house? It's reciprocated. It's just a thing that happens, the hospitality that happens here. Zacchaeus, Rahab opened up their home, and it's reciprocated. I hope you're following where I'm going with this. I hope you're following where I'm going with this. There's a guy that's famous for showing hospitality, Abraham. If you remember the story of Zacchaeus, Jesus said, Zacchaeus is a son of Abraham. Abraham was famous for his wells and his altars. Any stranger that came across and said, can I feed my cattle? He says, yeah, sure, come to the well, feed your cattle. And as they're feeding the cattle, he said, what's that? So that's an altar. Altar to who? Oh, the God of creation. And then he would witness. With his hospitality, people learned about that. And we learned in the Bible that he ran to these men and said, please come to my house. And he wanted to wash their feet. He wanted to cook a lamb for them. He wanted to cook bread for them. And Hebrews says, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Referring to Abraham. You know, from the very beginning, we lived in a happy home, Adam and Eve. We forfeited that. And since then, we've been kind of making our own homes. And this whole time, Jesus has been at just getting his fingers dirty, his hands pierced even, to try and call back his children, say, this is where home is, not there. It's a strange thing that we become inconvenienced, right? When we have a visitor come to our homes, we become inconvenienced. As I said, preparing the food, washing the dishes, it seems like such a chore to be inconvenienced for these people to be shown kindness, hospitality. One of the strange things that we're seeing in what Jesus has done is he left his home where he's seen as royalty, where he's seen as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and he would come, according to Philippians 2, to earth, humble himself as a man, and somehow try to appeal to us to invite him into our homes. The bigger lesson here is when we get familiar and we get conditioned to a point where we are inconvenienced, that we allow people to come to make us lose some of our resources. Yes, food is high up in price, but we're like, oh man, okay, all right, we're going to lose a loaf of bread tonight, and we're going to lose one of our things that we planned for the lunch and dinner the other day. Those type of plannings, all inconveniencing in the way to entertain somebody, to make them feel valuable. That inconvenience is shown to somebody else, but the visitor here, the one who's come to earth trying to appeal to us, he would be the one to be inconvenienced. He would be the one to take on what it means, and the reciprocation here is, you've accepted me into your home. When we look at the cross, That is an invitation to enter his home. Enter into my kingdom, Jesus says. I invite you to be part of this kingdom. While we're here on earth, we're exercising there. What happens is, when we get familiar with that type of thing, and I'm not trying to say, hey, let's be doormats. That is not what happens here. In the case of hospitality, we are making somebody else feel valuable. We're making them realize, hey, you're part of this kingdom you're part of this kingdom too, and I want you to know about this. And so the more we open up our physical dwellings, our homes that we live in, we start learning what it means to open our minds and our hearts. Some of you know that in the field of ministry, as clean as we want it to be, it's not. There are people, there's one guy that was this week that was hoping that I had some counseling expertise. I said, hey, I'm a pastor. I'm not a counselor, but I'll hear your story. I'll listen to you. And then he goes through a story. I was like, man, I'm not better than him. But what I have is indeed better than him. And I want this guy to feel what I have. I want him to know what value it is, what it means to be valued. So I'm trying my best. This guy's in Brisbane. So he found my name on Google somehow, some way. So I'm trying to help this dude out. I'm like, whoa. But the whole point is paying forward what Jesus has done to open up his home for us. So my encouragement this morning, as I'm appealing, practice hospitality. Practice what it means to be inconvenienced, what it means for your home, the blessings that it will bring to your house. You know, it's funny, when I grew up in the church, this is how things have changed so much. We all know what ADRA is, Adventist Development Relief Agency. Well, back in the 80s when I was a kid, 80s and 90s, every October, they'll have a door knock appeal. What the door knock appeal meant was that we'll get these bags, we have these brochures in there, and we'll literally go door knocking on each door, asking them for donations for ADRA. And we had these different projects every year, different projects to go to certain things. And people were happy to open the door. They're like, hey, what are you doing? So, we do it, get some donations. One of the best stories I ever had, went to this one house with my brother, we partnered up. I would have been like 9 or 10 or something like that. My brother would have been 11 or 12, so it was just on the cusp of being a big boy, if you know what I mean. And he did all the spills, did all the talks, and we went to one house, and you could hear the music in the background. We knew they were Māoris because I was singing Māori songs, and I knew some of them. I was like, oh, cool. My brother was like, do we should knock on the door? I was like, yeah. So he knocked on the door. This big Māori guy came to the door and said, hey, what are you boys up to? He had a beer in his hand. And my brother did a spiel. He said, come with me, boys. I'm like, oh. So we walked through the house, went straight to the back. He went to the guitarist, told the guitarist to stop playing. He stopped playing, everyone stopped singing. He said, hey, these boys, they're coming to collect some money for, what is it? My brother said, oh, come here, boys. We walked around with a plastic bag, and I think I came away with like $70, and my brother had like $60, $70, and we're like, whoa, that's awesome. The old ADRA appeal. Now, if we tried that now, I think the last time I did door knocking was, I think it was in Hobart, my second year here. Man, people looked at you like, what are you doing here? You know? Maybe it's the way I look, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've taken Luther and Eden a couple of times just to soften that look, you know? So when I'm holding Luther, hey, hello. But yeah, it's no longer the same. There's this thing of, this is my place of privacy. This is the place that I come to relax, and no one's meant to see me. I was like, wow, this is a real change of attitude. But not us. Not us. Let's keep our homes open for those that need to be shown value. We look forward to this time. I said Jesus has been hot on the wheel of trying to get us back to come back to that home that he had prepared from the very beginning. And this is the day we look forward to. Jesus restoring what this earth looks like, what it indeed feels like in real time and unadulterated to love and feel loved by God, by family, by friends. And this is why we open our homes, to show the hope that this still is around. In a world where some may feel it's hopeless, we can be that one spark of hope for that person to say, hey, you are indeed valued, you are indeed loved, and I want you to know this.